Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to show you this one. Now, those of you who watch my other videos would know this is the actual lawnmower that I give a repaint to and I advertise it on eBay. Now, what I found out afterwards was it did have the carburetor problem, which we know we got over that, and it ran as you saw in the video. But from cold, it is a devil of a beast to start from cold, to the extent where I had to spray some engine start in the actual carburetor to get it to start. Once it was warm and it was running, it was fine. So I couldn't sell it like that. So basically what I decided to do was just to take the cylinder head down. I knew the carburetor was alright, I knew the ignition was alright, so the problem had to lie elsewhere. So let me just show you exactly what I'd done and what I found. So as you can see, I basically took the cylinder head off, and there's the, you can see the piston coming up there. There's nothing wrong with the bores at all. I've checked the bores and there's no, I'm just rocking the piston side to side and I can see there's no play or anything there at all. So I knew that that wasn't the problem. It was a bit caked up with carbon all on and around the valves, which I've actually cleaned off. But the next stage of the operation then is to actually check the valves. So what you have to do, or how you get to them, is around the side here. I've actually taken the valve springs out. You've got the valve springs which sit inside here. Basically during normal operation I've taken that spring out of there, so I'll pull that forward to you. I'll show you what the problem was in a minute. Now this is a problem which you get when you tip the engine up the wrong way. Basically what you've got is a hole here which leads directly into the engine where you put the oil. As you can see, the oil goes in there basically and fills this, or at least comes into this chamber, and there's a hole there, and there's also a hole at the bottom there. That's the crankcase breather. Now as I said, you've got your valve springs in there, but during normal operation when you've got the lid on there, you've got this hole here. I don't know if you can see that, and if you look through, can you see that through there? That hole goes straight through. See, I'm putting my finger over the other end of it. Now that hole there, if I just show you where that finishes up, that is this tube here, which is the tube that connects onto our carburetor. Now what a lot of people do, if they put these in their sheds, they tip the lawnmower up, or if they're checking the blade for example, they'll tip the lawnmower up this way so that this is facing down, and what happens is this chamber actually fills up with oil, and when they go to start it, all the oil in here gets pushed into that hose, that vent there, pushed into this through here, back into the carburetor, and then it starts puffing out smoke, chugging, not running properly. They take the air filter off, or sometimes they don't even bother taking the air filter off. They just try to start it and it won't start because they've actually pushed all that oil through that hose and it's gone into the air filter. They'll try and start it again and again, and they'll find that it won't start, and then they think there's something wrong with it and they'll put it up for sale or get rid of it. And that's what normally happens. And all they really have to do, if you tip the mower up this side, all you basically have to do is to wait until that oil basically just drains back into the engine casing, and then this chamber is then empty. So when you do start a lawnmower up, no oil gets shot through into there and then into the car and then back into the engine. So most people try and start it near enough straight after, and it sucks all the oil into there, shoots it through there into the car. And the telltale sign of that is when, in fact I've got one here actually, I'll show you. This was a problem with another mower. You can't really see it at the moment, I don't think, but I've cleaned this one, but not to the extent where I've cleaned it properly, because I decided to show you. But that was caked, in fact you can still see some oil around the edge. But this was caked with oil, and it goes into that. Here's the carburetor. So that hose comes in there, and as you can see, it goes straight in there and fills your carburetor up with oil, and then it goes into the engine again and puffs out loads of smoke, and it starts coughing and spluttering. So that's basically why these lawnmowers cough out smoke if they've been turned up this way. If you turn it up the other way towards the carburetor, to check your blade. You will get a bit of petrol seep out or whatever. You could actually, for the sake of 2 bolts, take the petrol tank off. It's only 2 bolts to take it off, and then you haven't got a problem. But turning it up this way gives you that problem, as I said. Anyway, so that's another story. So anyway, what I done when I took the valve springs out of here, and then you can pull the valves basically out. This is the exhaust valve. There we go. So I don't know if you can see how badly worn that valve seat is, and I'll show you why that is in a minute. But I just want you to show you that is how worn that valve seat is. So basically, this thing wasn't sealing properly, especially from cold. Look how oval that valve seat is, and I'll show you why that is. So if I put that back in its hole, and I'm going to get the other one and just stick that back in its hole. This is the inlet valve. I'm going to show you why. Now, as you know, I've taken the springs out so you can pull the valves out. Now, I'll wiggle that side to side, look. There's a very tiny bit of play there, which is okay. It's not a problem there. But look at the exhaust valve, look. That play there is basically what's made that oval off, because it's been slapping about in there and not sealing, and that is why it was a devil's own job. That valve seat is actually shot now. Now what that means is, especially with this type of Briggs & Stratton engine, I don't know if you can look in there. Let's pull it out of there, that valve. You can't actually see in there, I don't think, but on this engine, for example, these valve seats are non-changeable. They're just cast into the engine, and look how that is the reason why this is poor starting. So another reason for poor starting can be this sort of problem. Now, it's not worth me doing anything more to that engine because you can't renew them valve seats. All I'm going to do is to take this engine off, because there's still loads of good parts on here for spares. You've got the ignition coil there, you've got all the bracketry and stuff like that. You've obviously got the carb and the linkage stuff and various there. You've got the rotating thing at the top there, the flywheel. And the crankshaft as well. The actual crankshaft that goes through and bolts onto the actual blade is obviously nice and true. So the internals of the engine are very good as well. Because if I find a lawnmower with a bent crank, then there's a very good chance that this one might fit it, because I'm using the same lawnmowers basically. So that engine was just 1, 2, 3 bolts to pull that engine off. And I actually bought this one, a little plastic lawnmower, for £12. Now this has got a very similar engine, in fact it's probably very identical, and the problem with this one when I went to pick it up was the gentleman said it's a devil's own job to start, and when it does start it just puffs out loads of blue smoke. And the problem with that one was, as I said to you, was he tipped it up towards that way, so all that oil had filled up that chamber what I was telling you about, and then they tried to start it straight afterwards while there was still loads of oil in there. And because there was loads of oil in there, it got sucked up straight away into the carburetor, and once it's in there, the only way to cure that is to strip it all down and clean it out once you've started it. If you would have just let it sat for about 20 minutes till all the oil seeped back into the engine again, that would have started up and run. There would have been no problem with that at all. But as a result of that, as I said to you, the typical symptom is when you take the air filter off, it's full of oil. And that is the problem, that's been tipped up the wrong way and someone's tried to start it directly afterwards. So all I'm going to do is unbolt that engine. It's a 15-minute job, and bolt that, plonk that straight back into there. That thing runs an absolute treat now, as I said to you, and that will be back on eBay. But I'm just showing you that that is actual wear in the valve guide stems. There's nothing you can do with that, and all you've got to do then is to just strip it off and sell the other bits, so either keep them for parts or strip it down. So yeah, little problems do come up, and you heard that running, it ran fine when it was warm, but when it's from cold it was a problem, and I couldn't sort that out. I couldn't sell it like that rather, so we had to do something, and that's what we done. We found that problem. But it shows you exactly that what's inside these engines. Wiggle the piston about, there's no play there, so that's okay. The crank's obviously okay. That's your problem there, that exhaust valve rattling. There you go.